The views and opinions expressed on this program are those of the participants and do not reflect the views of BronxNet or the program underwriters.
BronxNet. Your voice, your views, your vision.
Hello and welcome to Open, the one and only show that opens the Bronx and the rest of the world right to you. I'm your host, Cristina Pagan, and today we'll update you on what's happening in and around our community and also around the world. Coming up on today's show, our political analyst joins us to discuss all the latest in the world of politics in our community and across the globe. Plus, we'll sit down with an organization working to reach the Hispanic community that may qualify for deferred action for childhood arrivals. And later on, we'll sit down with the president of a club that has made history for over 100 years. So stay tuned. All this and much more is headed your way because we are now officially open. Hello, everyone. I'm your host, not Darren Jaime. I'm Cristina Pagan. And today is Wednesday, October 2nd, 2013. Of course, you are watching Open, the only live and interactive program that brings the Bronx and New York City straight to your TV set. We want to encourage you to stay connected to us. You can find us on Twitter at BronxNetTV and Facebook at Open BronxNet Television. From rising conflict in the Middle East to New York City's mayoral race, there is never a shortage of stories to hit the news. Joining us to break down all the latest nationally and internationally is political analyst and professor at SUNY Maritime, Mark Meirowitz. Welcome, sir.
Hi, Christina. How are you today?
I'm great. It's nice to see you again.
Big news day.
Oh, my goodness. Let's get into it. So the government shut down earlier this week. What does that mean for us?
Well, it means that the government is dysfunctional, that our representatives in Washington are spinning wheels for no reason. Mm-hmm. They made sure that they were getting paid.
Of course.
Of course. And to my mind, it really lowers the entire public opinion of our government. You know, the people will lose confidence in their elected officials. What's the whole point of government anyway?
Did they have confidence in them in the first place?
Government has up and down in terms of public opinion. Mm-hmm. And President Obama, the Democrats in the Senate, and the Republicans in the House look absolutely ridiculous. And then in the House, the Republicans are fighting against each other. Mm-hmm. And then you have this one minute marvel, Ted Cruz, who is trying to launch what is never going to be a presidential campaign and probably is going to ruin the prospects for the Republican Party. So what you have is the ultimate cauldron of nonsense.
Once you quote Ashton Kutcher in a speech, then you have a problem. You're not going to be president. I'm sorry.
Exactly.
But I know a lot of people have been blaming the Republicans specifically for this shutdown. Is there blame just on the Republicans, or is it both sides?
Well, the Republicans, particularly with the Tea Party, mm-hmm. have put this issue of Obamacare as the key issue on the agenda. The fact of the matter is that Obamacare, or the Affordable Care Act, is kind of a funny cartoon in the paper today where someone is yelling about the Affordable Care Act, but they don't know it's Obamacare. They don't know what it is.
Right.
Many of the people have no idea about this law. Mm-hmm. This law has a lot of benefits. The most important point is it's a law, and it was passed by Congress, and the president signed it, and it's a law. I keep saying that. And it was challenged in the United States Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court said it was constitutional. Mm-hmm. So now what the Republicans are basically saying is, unless you defund this, we're not going to let the government function. And then they start closing down the government. Then the latest ploy was that the Republicans said, all right, we'll fund the parks, we'll fund the veterans, we'll fund the pandas and the zoo, we'll fund that, but not the rest of the government, this kind of piecemeal thing. So what you basically have is we have separation of powers, where all the separate powers don't talk to each other.
Right.
I wanted to mention the interaction that occurred some years ago with Speaker of the House Tip O'Neill and President Ronald Reagan on opposite political parties. They got together. They weren't political friends, so to speak, but personal friends, and they worked things out. And how do they do that? By talking to each other. And what you end up here is This is basic communications 101. In order to work stuff out, you have to talk to one another. And here you have everybody talking in a different direction and pointing fingers and getting nothing accomplished. At the end of the day, it'll probably end up like the way it ended up the last time there was a shutdown, where Newt Gingrich precipitated this for the Republicans, and then the Republicans were blamed, and President Clinton got the benefit in the Democratic Party. Right. So, but I think the important point is, from the rest of the world looking at this, usually respecting America for checks and balances, and respecting our republic and our democracy for our vigorous discussion and debate in the House and the Senate, it's so degenerated that there is no communication. The other point is the Obama health care law actually has some beneficial things. It's got a lot of problems. They launched the exchange yesterday, and there were a lot of glitches about it, but the pre-existing condition provision in the law is very good. Yeah. You have people saying, well, I could never get health care coverage for my disabled son because of pre-existing conditions, and now I can get the coverage. I mean, there's some aspects here, but the Republicans take such a monolithic position on this, following Ted Cruz, which is following down, basically, the road to disaster for the country. And again, respect for government. I still emphasize that, because government can't function unless the people respect government. And I love Jesse Ventura's comment, which was terrific, that he had last night on CNN. He said, well, if the government's shut down, does that mean we don't have to pay taxes? Right. Well, you do. You have to pay taxes. You have to pay the congressional salaries, right? You have to pay for all sorts of things, right? But the average person will suffer in this country. So I think at the end of the day, the people are going to rise up and tell the congressman, you better get your act and your house in order, because this is not the way. The American government, that's the paradigm of democracy, the paradigm of representative government, should not operate in this I think shameful way would be the way to express it.
You know what it is, too? I don't think that a lot of the normal people, the average people, really understand what the Affordable Care Act is, and they're listening to these two sides bicker about something that's already done and over with. And do we see that? Are we going to see that change? Are we going to see an end to this government shutdown anytime soon?
Well, I mean, I wish I could predict it. I guess I could know the lottery number 2 or something else like that. But I think at the end of the day, I don't know how the Republicans are going to be able to maneuver this any further. They're going to have to pass what's called this clean resolution, which basically lets the government get funded. I mean, it could continue for a couple more days. Matter of fact, you start seeing the reactions of it for the response. I had a talk I was supposed to give with one of the government agencies to small businesses, canceled. Okay, that's a small example. There was a U.S. trade representative announced that maybe we won't have negotiations on the free trade agreement. And there are thousands of things that the reverberations of this throughout our not only America, but throughout the world, where we don't realize how many things the federal government is involved in many respects more involved in our personal lives than the state or the local government. Very important things. Luckily, Medicare, Social Security will continue. The post office will continue because it's self-funded. But at the end of the day, who's going to suffer? The people. Right. And as you say about the Affordable Care Act, about Obamacare, it's got problems. But you know what? If it ain't broke really completely, then try to fix it. Don't try to destroy it. And the Republicans have taken this kind of nuclear option, this destruction option. It will not bode well for them. And actually, it's interesting. The House is in the hands of the Republicans. The Senate has a number of seats that are up for grabs. And now I think they blew it. I think the Republicans blew it. They look responsible. Whether they are responsible or not, I think the president also, to answer your question, is partially to blame as well, because he's the president. The people elected him to lead all the people. And you can't take the position, well, these Republicans are anarchists, that doesn't work. That's not what Ronald Reagan did with Tip O'Neill, Republican and Democrat. They got together, they schmoozed, they had a cocktail, and they worked it out. Okay? That's politics. Politics is not pointing a finger at one person, or pointing a finger at another person, then walking off and passing bill after bill after bill after bill after bill, keeping the Congress running till late hours for absolutely no purpose other than a show. It's not even as good, by the way, as some Broadway shows.
Of course not.
Exactly.
Well, speaking of schmoozing, a big thing this week, or this past week, was the talk between Obama and the Iranian president, and how Obama will talk to the Iranian president, but won't even talk to the guy in the Senate. How does that work?
Well, that's one of the strange anomalies and peculiarities of our American system. Phone call. Obama gets on a telephone with President Rouhani, who wouldn't shake his hand in New York. So they could only do a phone call. You know, it's kind of like, I don't know, it's kind of a match game, international match game.
Indeed.
Like you see, it's like international harmony, okay? But the problem is that Rouhani, the question is, and here's the problem. Obama talks to Rouhani. He represents Iran. Is he, in fact, a moderate? Okay? How do you know? And the problem, one of the problems is that it is a peculiar thing. Iran has more oil than most countries. If Iranian oil is so gigantic that they actually, if they stop their oil production, they would ruin the entire economy. Here's the question for everyone to ponder. A country that has oil resources, tremendous oil resources, why does it need nuclear energy? Please answer that question. Why does a country blessed with oil need to develop a nuclear facility? It doesn't. The only reason it's developing a nuclear facility is for nuclear weapons. And it's kind of the elephant in the room, the secret that everybody's whispering around. They're really making nuclear weapons. And what is Rouhani? Is Rouhani a good guy, a bad guy? Or as Benjamin Netanyahu of Israel said, I think he's a wolf in sheep's clothing. Very, very interesting point to make. Is he really a moderate? Can he really change something? Or is he just biding time? The bottom line in Iran is hurting. The sanctions from the United States, the international community, are hurting Iran. Their banking system is messed up, their agriculture, everything. Their whole economy is messed up. The sanctions are working. And that's why Iran is now being smiley face Rouhani, Mr. Smiley Face, Mr. Friendly Face. Is he really as friendly? I hope so, but it's unlikely because when he came here and he made the phone call with President Obama, what happened? When he got back to Iran, people threw eggs at his limousine. The people came from the hardliners to the airport to greet him with bad news that why are you working with that so-called great Satan America? So he's not got a very smooth path. If he's going to try to do something, that's fine. But if he's just trying to punt it and postpone it, that's very dangerous for the world because the more time that goes by, the more time they have to develop their nuclear capability. And that is a grave, grave danger to the world, not just the Middle East, but to the entire world.
All right, I concur. That's all the time we have right now.
Okay.
Thank you so much. We have to take a quick break, but when we return, we'll find out more about a Bronx celebration you won't want to miss, so stay tuned.
Sir, are you okay?
Everything's fine. Thanks.
You wouldn't ignore this, so why ignore the signs of a stroke? Call 911 immediately, because time lost is brain lost.
I love being in classrooms like this one and learning new things. But I'm a Brooklyn girl, and I know school can be hard. It's demanding, and we kids have many distractions, lots of other things we could be doing. Sometimes even your friends may tell you that school isn't cool, that it isn't the place to be. Don't listen to them. There's nothing more important than education. It's the key to everything else. It helps us understand our world and be better people, better friends, and better citizens. So stay in school, and don't let anyone tell you that you're not good enough or smart enough. Be a star, shine brighter than anyone else, and you'll make the grade.
This has been a public service announcement of the Make the Grade Foundation. Go to makethegrade.org to learn more.
Take my hand and start a brand new day. And together as one we'll start to see some change.
Underneath everything we are, underneath everything we do, we are all people, connected, interdependent, united. And when we reach out a hand to one, we can influence the condition of all. That's what it means to live united.
Okay.
The Hunts Point Economic Development Corporation is celebrating their silver anniversary with a 3-day party. This is the Business Networking Party of the Year for Hunts Point. Here to tell us more about the HPEDC and its events is Executive Director Josefina Infante. How are you?
Hi, how are you?
I'm
How
good.
Are you doing?
I'm great. So tell us a little bit about what the Hunts Point Economic Development Corporation is first, just to give people a basis.
Well, what it is, as it says, a spearhead or a catalyst of economic change and development in an area that is the largest and most robust economic site in the Bronx, if not first of all, New York City as the food center. It is a food cluster of over 600 businesses there just on food that are related to food, whether it's transportation, whether it's distribution, whether it's manufacturing. And what happened is that this organization was created by the Chamber 25 years ago, Greater Hunts Point Chamber of Commerce, known now as that, to really identify the needs and to build up what was a very devastated area 25 years ago. And I was hired, I started the Economic Development Corporation, part of the Chamber, to address the lack of services, the lack of focus, all the negative concepts that were out there, not only citywide, statewide, but globally. And this anniversary is not about the date or the year, it's about the journey. It's a journey of 25 years of coming together, a business community, and really coming together with the residential community to build back, to build up, and to have people focus on the strengths of this community. And it does have strengths. Besides a waterway that's around it, it has a very strong food center. It has a meat cooperative, a produce cooperative, and the Fulton Fish Market, plus many small businesses. And every year for me it's been a challenge to really resolve and get through all the difficulties, all the challenges that a business community, a small business community has to just live through, whether it's government that gets in the way or government that assists. There were roads that were constructed. There was a differentiation, no differentiation between where the people lived and where the businesses were. The zoning, the tracking, the creating a job center. Even the simplest thing that Hunts Point, which was 10474, didn't even have a post office. And no one would apply for it, and we did. It didn't have a job center, and the Hunts Point Economic Development piloted an important job center. It didn't have incentives to attract nor to retain businesses, and we worked with the state to get a special program where we just really reeled in a lot of businesses and created new jobs for the area, 5,000 plus jobs, net jobs. And and then partnered with the city and the federal government to become an empowerment zone. Again, another set of incentives to the businesses. And then created this dynamic type of party that started 25 years ago, which was a tent party, because why go to Manhattan to have a party? Have it right there. And have people visualize what this area could be. And this is the 26th, but it is our 25th year of the creation of the Hunts Point Economic Development as the anchor, the catalyst, and also a very important, something that's as important as BronxNet, to be there, to keep on being there through the bad and through the good, and to remain there so that we can build another level of importance for the area. It's crazy. It's crazy that the city of New York doesn't appreciate Hunts Point as much as the rest of the world, because the rest of the world recognizes the food center as the largest in the world. It's a world-class food distribution center. And we have to work on improving the roads, getting the right people to work there,
Right.
train the people there, and even start, as we did 18 years ago, an entrepreneurship program of not only helping those businesses that are there, but helping those that want to start businesses. And this year we won an award as the best in the state entrepreneurship program of 23 programs throughout the state.
Congratulations.
So, thank you. That's great. And with BronxNet, we won an Emmy in 2007 for a film that we did together, we produced together, and we won it for the editing, but nevertheless, Hunts Point won it
Right.
as an Emmy 2007, and the title was The World is Coming to Hunts Point.
Right.
And when you see that type of energy, when you see that type of, all our people that are working there, you get it.
Right.
But a lot of people have been afraid to come to Hunts Point, to look at Hunts Point, and now we have parks, we have a new signage in the area, we have a median. All this is part of the journey.
Right.
All of that. Now, it takes patience and really direct goal seeking. And what I've tried to do in every year is really set up a goal so that we know that there's movement and that the business knows that there is movement. And what has followed is that the city, the federal government, and the state now are very interested in the area.
That's good.
But it took a lot of conversation, work. This is a video that was done in the 90s, late 90s.
I think it's on VHS.
Yes, because look at that. But it won an award statewide. BronxNet won an award for this.
Why do you think that it has taken so long, or why it does take so long for other communities and other government officials to recognize how important Hunts Point really is?
Well, there's special reasons for that. Number one, the Bronx has taken a long time to come back. And every year I've had some school film.
Right.
See 2 or 3 institutes today. That's a lot. But there was a worldwide HBO film that portrayed Hunts Point incorrectly. And every year, it's in the urban studies manual of most schools, colleges, to study Hunts Point. But they don't study where it is, only what it was, and it was very bad.
Right.
But you had to go block to block. You had to convince the people themselves that this was a place that is worth saving. And there were a lot of other groups that got involved, local groups. It really was from the bottom up. And I've traveled now across the country and overseas. And when they talk about Hunts Point, they talk about opportunity.
Oh, that's good.
They don't talk about what the local people do here. We just have to we have to really focus on the anchor, which is the food industry for the entire Bronx. I got a call from the folks at Fairway who are opening up a site very close by.
Great.
We have other big companies, something like Baldor that came from Queens with 200 and now have 950 employees.
Great.
We're celebrating one of the transportation companies, Selby Transportation, that went from this year from 300 to 650 employees. We're celebrating the local health center that I was on that board for 15 years, and we started out with 150, 200. They're now doubling their size. They have 17 sites. It all started in Hunts Point, and 900 now getting to 900 employees.
That's amazing.
So while we had maybe 2 companies that had over 500 maybe, now we have about 7 or 8 companies that have over 500 employees. And I love seeing the minority businesses grow.
That's amazing.
And being part of this community. But we have to fight. Right now we're fighting this little agency called the Business Integrity Commission that is treating Hunts Point like prisoners, the businesses like prisoners, the way they're taking a law from 1990s that was for organized crime, and now they're incorporating into Hunts Point. we have to fight back. We have to. The theory is that every year we're going to have to fight back for the identity and to take control of Hunts Point.
Thank you so much for joining us. That's very useful information. Where can we find out more information about the Hunts Point Economic Development Corporation?
Well, we're on the web, Hunts Point Economic Development, .org, and we're also, let me give you the phone numbers, of 718-842-1717. And please call me and let me know what you think, and let me know if you want to join this great miracle that's not anymore a miracle, but it stands on its own, the success of Hunts Point.
Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you.
We have to take a quick break, but when we return, we'll find out more about an organization reaching out to inform the Hispanic community. So stay tuned.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm Congressman Serrano, here to give you some good news. Coming in October, the healthcare law will roll out the health insurance marketplace, which will help you get coverage that meets your needs and fits your budget. When you use the health insurance marketplace, you'll fill out an application and find out if you can get lower costs on your monthly premiums, or if you and your family qualify for free or low-cost coverage through Medicaid or the Children's Health Insurance Program. Open enrollment starts October 1st, 2013. Plans and prices will be available then. Coverage starts as soon as January 1, 2014. Now is the time to learn more about the new healthcare options. Go to healthcare.gov or call 1-800-318-2596. We are all going to see great benefits from the new healthcare options. Don't delay in learning more.
Welcome home, man.
So here are the keys. Congratulations, it's officially yours. I'm sure you'll have many happy years here. Except for you, because you'll be gone 3 years from now, struck down by the same disease that got your father. So you won't be around for them. And sadly, it could have been detected early with a simple test, but you didn't have it. Okay, who wants to check out the backyard?
For a list of tests every man should have, go to ahrq.gov.
Hello, welcome back to Open. I'm your host, Cristina Pagan. The Garifuna Coalition USA is an organization that has partnered with the Department of Youth and Community Development to reach communities that may qualify for deferred action for childhood arrivals. Here to tell us what this means for the Hispanic community is Garifuna Coalition USA Board Chairman Jose Francisco Avila and Executive Director Sulma Arsu Brown. Hello.
Hello, good morning. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. Morning. So tell me, what does that mean, childhood deferred action or action deferred to?
This is actually related to the dreamers, the young people that arrived here as children, and because of that, they are undocumented, not their fault. And on June 15, 2012, President Obama signed a law basically allowing these people to apply for deferred action, basically meaning that they cannot be deported. And this is for 2 years. It's people older than 15 years, but they had to be 31 years old on June 15, 2012.
Okay.
The problem is there's a large number here in New York that haven't applied. So the department, the city council actually provided funding to reach out to this community. And it's interesting because most of the communities that are hard to reach are right here in the Bronx. It's Honduras, Guatemala, El Salvador, Dominican Republic, and Mexico. And Ecuador also is the other one. Those are the 6 countries where they have had difficulty people applying. So they partner with organizations like ours to try to reach them.
So it's actually a privilege and an honor for the New York City Department of Youth and Community Development to reach out to us, so that we can help outreach to the not just Garifuna but Central American community. And with our grassroots, I don't want to say expertise, but we have managed to bring the community together. This is also our opportunity to bring all of our Central American brothers and sisters together, because we're literally in the same fight. We come to America for that American dream, and it's once again it's an honor to be a part of making that happen. So how it's going to work is going to work in 3 folds. We have to work together with other community organizers such as literacy providers and also legal providers. So we will host clinics, information sessions in all languages, Garifuna, Spanish, and Spanish as well. And then we'll refer them to the literacy provider, who then, once they're eligible, will refer them to the legal providers to take the necessary steps to hopefully become documented in this country.
Why do you think that those specific 6 countries are the hardest to reach here in the Bronx?
Well, it's typical. It's the less educated, fear, which is always the situation with immigrants and so forth. But it's interesting because we also did participate in the 2010 census campaign, and we also partnered with the Census Bureau then, and it was for the same reason, to increase the participation. And it tends to be the same community. Latin America, per se, most of us who were born in Latin America know that out there's not such thing as freedom. People are afraid of the government and so forth. And then they come over here, find themselves in a situation where they're undocumented, so they're afraid of the government, they're afraid of attending. And it's usually easier to reach them by organizations such as ours. I also want to emphasize that although those 6 countries are the ones that are hard to get, this is for every immigrant that is in the United States that qualifies for it. But that's some of the reasons why they have been difficult to reach.
I mean, why shouldn't they be afraid now? Why is this action different from anything else before it?
It's interesting because reaching out to organizations such as ours, we're able to bring the community closer together and educate them, right? Because 1, they trust us, and 2, we can help bring that fear down and say, no, do not be afraid. This is the process, and we will pretty much, again, just emphasize the education, and ignorance is not an excuse. So we're there to break all that ignorance, and they trust us to do that as well. So just to approach their situation in an educated manner, so that they understand what the process is, because once you understand the process, you're a little bit less afraid of it.
Right.
I think the key word there is trust. They know us. We are part of their community. We work with them in other activities. We work with them with providing other resources. So that is the key.
Yes, trust is a very big deal.
Exactly.
Where can they find more information and go to you guys for help?
They can call us at 718-402-7700, or they can visit the Garifuna Coalition.org, www.garifunacoalition.org, or again, 718-402-7700.
Are you guys going to have any events or on-site locations where they can go, or is it just online and via phone?
Believe it or not, this just went into effect. We attended orientation on Monday. This program went into effect yesterday. So this is the beginning, and we're going to be back with more details as far as it. But we wanted to put it out there. But again, the effective date was yesterday.
Okay, great. No, I saw the fear in your eyes. Like, wait, too early.
And I'm glad he explained it that way. So again, right now, we're in the process of just getting dates together again for those immigration clinics and info sessions.
Okay, good.
And at the same time, we met some partners out there. So we're in the process of getting to meet them, get to know their locations, and at the same time to continue to build that trust. for the immigrant communities. The fact that we're not going to send them to just any place. These are agencies that we know and we work with.
Exactly. So again, it's also part of us doing our homework as well, because we're not just going to send the community to just anybody. We want to go and see how the literacy classes, are taught, so we can identify who better pairs with who, to make this a more effective process and a system.
That's very helpful. You were also telling me that you're going to have some events coming up in the next few months. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yes, we are actually going to be hosting our Masterpiece of Humanity fundraising gala. And the reason why we're calling it the Masterpiece of Humanity, because in 2001, UNESCO proclaimed the Garifuna as a masterpiece of humanity, correct? So we also felt that in order to be that as a culture, there are people who made that happen, represent that for us. So we're going to be honoring individuals who, who have contributed to their own perspective community as well as ours. We're doing it in February just to align ourselves with the African American History Month. In 1823, the first black play in the Americas was called The Drama of Kinchataway. Kinchataway was actually the chief of the Garifuna people, and that drama was about the Garifuna community, the Garifuna people as a whole. So this will also be bridging the gap between the Garifuna people and our African American brothers and sisters, because we do now share a common history. So we wanted to pay homage to that as well.
How many people know that about that particular play? That's the
Not too many. And that's part of the outreach that we have done and then raising awareness out there. It's interesting because we just mentioned Black History Month, but we're here also because we are also part of Hispanic Heritage.
Exactly. Thank you for bringing us back to
as Central Americans, and again, that's the reason we were asked to the partnership and so forth. But not too many. And that has been a process of educating the public about and the community about Garifuna. BronxNet has been a great forum in allowing us to do that. But again, that's one of the proud history. And we didn't know that because I was born in Honduras. I came to America at the age of 15. I didn't know the history of the Garifunas. So everything that I learned was after I learned English and I was able to read the books that were written by others.
That's pretty amazing.
And many of us had the same experience. I was also born in Honduras, and while I was doing my research about the Garifuna people, I didn't really want to identify myself as a Latina, but I am a Latina, and I have to give tribute to the fact that the Spanish people, the Latinos, allowed us to even stay in the coastland of Central America without enslaving us. Hence, we still have our own history, our own culture. So we also have to pay tribute to where tribute is due, and we're grateful for that as well.
You said that UNESCO identified the Garifuna people as a masterpiece of humanity. What does that mean?
It was actually the culture. It was the language, it was the music, and the dance. And it was proclaimed as masterpiece of the oral and intangible heritage of humanity, which basically means that it's a culture that's important to humanity and needs to be preserved. There are those who fear that the Garifuna culture will be extinct in the next generation. So it was a way to raise awareness and also preserve it.
Oh, that's amazing. Thank you guys for joining us.
Thank you.
It's actually pretty amazing because the next person we're talking to is going to tell us about some intangible heritage in the Tantan.
Tantan.
So we have to take a quick break, but when we come up, we'll be sitting down with the president of the Explorers Club. So stay where you are. We'll be right back.
2 outs with a runner on first base. Now the big guy comes up to bat, hitting .342 with 92 RBIs and 36 homers.
Chill raw and prepared foods promptly. 1 in 6 Americans will get sick from food poisoning this year. Keep your family safer. Check your steps at foodsafety.gov.
Mom, I'm not gonna go to college.
What are you saying? You've got to go to college.
Well, they offered me a job and...
Son, college is much more important.
No.
Yes.
No, Mom.
Yes.
Anyways, it's my decision.
Okay, well then decide what degree you're going to get because you will go to college.
Their tomorrow depends on your words today. The Hispanic Scholarship Fund has the information you need to help your kids go to college.
There is also a very attractive extended warranty option that includes free service and parts for the next 5 years. But there's no need for you to get that. You failed to get the test you needed at the doctor that would have detected disease early enough where it could have been treated. So you won't be around in 2 years to see him grow up, which means the warranty would be useless. Okay, sign here, please.
For a list of tests every man should have, go to ahrq.gov.
Coming home can be hard if you're a veteran of Iraq or Afghanistan. You may feel like you're all alone. But you're not alone. At iava.org, your fellow vets are all around you. Join our free online community, get the resources you need, and connect to other vets who know where you're coming from. IAVA.org. We've got your back.
Take my hand and start a brand new day. And together as one we'll start to see some change.
Underneath everything we are, underneath everything we do, we are all people, connected, interdependent, united. And when we reach out a hand to one, we can influence the condition of all. That's what it means to live united.
Cook foods to the right temperature using a food thermometer. 3,000 Americans will die from food poisoning this year. Keep your family safer. Check your steps at foodsafety.gov.
The Explorers Club has over 100 years of history. It promotes scientific exploration by supporting research and education in the physical, natural, and biological sciences. Here to tell us more about the Explorers Club is President Alan Nichols. Welcome, sir.
Glad to be here.
Great. Can you tell us a little bit about the history of the Explorers Club?
Yes, you mentioned it's over 100 years old. It's a club of explorers, as distinguished, not publishers or anything. All the members of the Explorers Club explore themselves. So that's really what it is. It was formed by 50 explorers, in the original ones. Amundsen, who was the first to go to the South Pole, Admiral Peary, first to go to the North Pole, and that's the kind of thing that's been going on for 100 years.
And what does it mean to be an explorer? How does one become an Explorers Club member?
Well, there's a process. You have to be nominated and sponsors and all that kind of stuff. But you're an explorer. We're all explorers. The human species, we have this exploration gene, actually, and they haven't identified the gene, but that's how we survive. And the people who are in the explorers are just a little more active at it than others. So if you want to join, all you got to do is take an expedition and we'll make you an explorer.
And how did you become part of the Explorers Club? What was your great exploration?
Since there's only 2 experts in the world, I can call myself one of the 2 experts on the world on sacred mountains.
Okay.
So I've climbed and written about and talked about sacred mountains all over the world for a lot of years now. And that's been the essence of my own exploration. And then that gets me off onto tax, the lost mountain climbers. And I'm looking for the tomb of Genghis Khan now, and that kind of stuff.
And what is a sacred mountain?
Sacred mountain is a mountain that plays an important part in some religion. If you just think of Mount Olympus. If you're a people and you're going to put your gods on the top of a mountain, it's going to be you're going to talk. If you're Moses and you're going to go talk to God, you're going to do it at the top of a mountain. If you're going to have pilgrims, they're going to climb mountains, and so it goes on and on that way. In that there is no religion, and I've studied them all. Not all of them, but all certainly ones we've heard of, and they all at some point in their history, a mountain or a high point at least, becomes very important, has a special role. That's what sacred mountains are about.
And what was it about those mountains that intrigued you? Was it something that you read as a little boy, or something that you grew to love?
Yeah, it's a natural for me because I'm very interested, always have been in religions. And I had an experience while I was trying a law case in Arizona that kind of just came to me. I tried to research the question, and there were no books on the subject. Amazingly enough, there's 1,000 million books on mountains and more on religions. They didn't put them together. So I've spent a career putting the mountains and the religions together, which means I kind of self-hypnotize myself. It means I research the religion and I find out about it. So it's a natural for me.
What has been your favorite mountain that you've discovered or
I always
explored?
get that. Favorite mountain. It's kind of, people ask me also, what's my favorite religion? And the answer is, I've never found a religion I don't like, and I've never found a mountain I don't like, but probably one of the more interesting ones, I was the first person, Westerner, after Tibet was opened, to circumambulate, to go around Mount Kailas in southwest Tibet. And that's a holy mountain to all Buddhists. It's called Meru, the connection between earth and heaven. And it's a Hindu place. If you're a Hindu, you see this mountain and you found mukti, means you found it. So it's a really important. I have some important, wonderful experiences there.
Well, then, if that's your favorite, what was your least favorite experience?
Wow. Least favorite experience, I guess you'd have to say it's least favorite because it was so dangerous to me. And that was actually Mount Lassen in California. That's a sacred mountain to the original Native Americans that were there. It was a tribal totem, absolutely secret. They had no evidence, even though they've studied those Native Americans. But I tried a different route down the mountain, and I ended up 36 hours lost and all that. So
you were exploring and got a little lost.
I was exploring. That's part of the price of it. But that's when you always have that. And the other thing about all these things is there are always people who seem to come at the right time to save you when you do foolish things.
Oh, what is it? What is your next expedition?
Right now, my big key out of Sacred Mountains, the Mongols, and remember Genghis Khan, the greatest warrior that conquered more territory than anybody in history, both before his time and afterwards. So he died about 750 years ago. Marco Polo started looking for his grave, and they've been looking for it for 750 years. He has to be buried on a sacred mountain in Mongolia. And so that's my present quest. I found something called Mountain X, and we've done magnetometry and found there's anomalies under there. So right now, that's my current, I call it Mountain X. It's actually has a different name, but it's not anything I tell anybody where it is.
How many sacred mountains are there in Mongolia that you have to search there?
Well, there's innumerable ones, but in north they call Barkhan Khaldun. That's where he was brought up. That's where he prayed to Tongri, the god up there. That's where everybody thinks he was buried, and his family wrote a book after he died and made people think that's where he was buried, but he was a master of deception. He didn't want anybody to find so they've been spending millions of dollars Western explorers, trying to find his tomb in recent times, millions of dollars, and they're only about 1,000 air miles away from where he was actually buried. So he succeeded.
What makes you believe then that he's buried in the one that you're searching at?
There's about 10 factors, and I spent a lot of time researching. I was making a talk in Dallas, and a professor from SMU comes up, Johan, he comes up to me, and he says, "You're interested in sacred mountains. We, a very small minority of us, believe they're looking for Genghis Khan's tomb in the wrong place." And I said, "Well, I'm not really involved in that kind of archaeology and so forth." But he said, "Well, but you're interested in sacred mountains, and you're given a talk about them, and you're going to be bicycling." I was at that time bicycling from Istanbul to Xi'an, 10,000 miles on a bicycle. Wow. When we crossed the Yellow River, and I was telling him that was my next portion of this. He said, when you cross the Yellow River, go to Hohhot in Inner Mongolia, and you're going to see the Yin Mountains on your left as you go to Hohhot. In those mountains is where Genghis Khan was buried. So I was about a day and a half ahead of time. So we got in the sag wagon and drove to Hohhot when we were doing that cycling journey from Kashgar to Xi'an. Went all along these mountains. They're all beautiful. Beautiful mountains. They're all batholithic, like the Sierras.
Right.
Of course, oh my God, how can you ever find the sacred mountain? So I was seeing them. We got there, and we spent too much time in Hohhot, because I had to get back bicycling. We come back. The sun is just coming up, early morning sun. We're going along this mountain. There, I see a mountain. And I say to my wife, Becky, who's with me in the sag wagon, that's it. We go around the mountain, and on the top of this mountain, non-climbable mountain, it's just a cliff like this,
right,
is a cupola, a little shrine. So I know it's a sacred mountain. I know it wouldn't be from 750 years ago. I know that's a sacred mountain. So I've been back 3 times. We've done magnetometry on that particular mountain. But he has to be buried to carry out his mission. He has to be buried within 14 days of when he died because of the shaman religion he lived on. And so anyway, there's about 10 of those factors that this place satisfied. But it doesn't count until you actually confirm it.
That's pretty amazing. So you also went to the Tantan this year, and we're going to take a little look at the package about that. The Bronx is one of the most diverse counties in the nation, but there is also around the world places where cultures are being lost. That's why UNESCO designates several points of the world as intangible monuments for humanity. One of those places is in Morocco, a friend of the Bronx. This year, the Explorers Club was a guest of honor at the Musée de Tantan. The president of the Explorers Club, Mr. Alan Nichols, who we've been speaking to, gave his speech at the festival. Let's take a look.
Tantan, a town in desert in southwestern Morocco, is chosen for the historical festival, Museum, that brings Sahrawi together to celebrate their culture and traditions. While many traditions around the world are in danger of disappearing, Musée de Tantan was proclaimed as one of the masterpieces of the oral and intangible heritage of humanity by UNESCO in 2005. Due to the security problem in the region in the mid-70s, authorities at the time banned the festival. But in 2004, with the support of His Majesty King Mohammed VI, UNESCO's Goodwill Ambassador Kitty Munoz brought this magnificent event back to life. This year, the Explorers Club was a guest of honor at the Musée de Tantan. Alan Nichols, the president of the Explorers Club, states that the exploration is in our DNA.
I'm Alan Nichols, and I'm an explorer. As a matter of fact, each of you are also explorers. As fellow human beings, it's in our DNA. It's in our bones.
Nichols also mentions Moroccans' long history of their explorations.
We know about exploration in Africa for the last hundreds of years. Morocco knows about exploration of Africa for the last thousands of years, at least since the time of the Phoenicians. We all know about Marco Polo, but the Moroccan explorer Ibn Battuta traveled 5 times as many countries and distances in those very same years.
Last March, King Mohammed VI sent his special advisor to the United States to meet with the Explorers Club at their annual dinner in New York.
We talked about how the Explorers Club and Morocco can work together for global exploration, especially in Morocco, Africa, and the Middle East.
In 2014, UNESCO's Goodwill Ambassador Kitty Munoz will sail from Morocco to New York. Nichols promises a full support for this expedition.
The flags of Morocco and the Explorers Club will fly together on this vessel. We will welcome you with open arms when you arrived, just as you have welcomed us with open arms.
An event like this is vital for explorers around the world, and the Explorers Club was honored to take part. For BronxNet, this is Christy Takahashi.
And so we're back. We're going to talk with the president of the Explorers Club, Mr. Alan Nichols, about his exploration in the Tantan. Could you tell us, what did that trip really mean to you? How did you feel when you were there experiencing all these wonderful sights and sounds?
It was so important to me because I told you I'd like to bike ride, and I did a lot of research about the Sahara because I wanted to bike across the Sahara. To actually be there with those people who are maintaining their tradition was really very exciting. My only regret is that we just weren't there long enough to really see it. And the other part of it is where Tantan is right next to the sea, so you have both the sea and the famous Sahara Desert. That's a thrilling place to be.
It was pretty thrilling. What was your favorite part about being there? Even though I know it was a very short trip, very whirlwind, got there, go, move. What was your favorite part about being there?
Without a doubt, the really favorite part is after you saw it in the pictures of the horsemen riding. I have a ranch in California, and so I've done a lot of cattle and all this business. So actually, I went down and met the horsemen and talked to them and their horses, and it's extraordinary. There was about 30 groups, 30 different tribes, each with these very good horses, and galloping at full speed and firing their heads. That was really exciting. And then the Moroccans themselves, especially the young kids, they're just so enthusiastic and hospitable. That was really the high point for me.
What's the connection between the Explorers Club and Morocco?
We're in a joint project to emphasize world exploration. If I asked you the name of some explorers, you'd maybe say Livingston. You'd mean a lot of people, and they are people going from West-centered world. We go to Africa or we go somewhere else, not realizing or not understanding that's the end of that kind of exploration. The exploration now is world-centered rather than West-centered, and that's what this is all getting together. King Mohammed VI, His Majesty, is behind this program. He's going to send a reed boat from Morocco to New York. This Tantan Festival brings Saharans from all over. So we need to understand that while we think we're exploring some country, that country's already had explorers for longer than we've been exploring.
That's pretty amazing. Thank you so much for sharing your time with us.
Love to be with you. Hope that's helpful.
It's been a pleasure coming into your homes. I'd like to thank our guests for joining us and you, the viewers, for tuning in. If you missed any part of today's show, you can catch the Recablecast at 10 p.m. on Cablevision Channel 67, Fios 33, or watch anytime on the web at bronxnet.org. Have a great week, and don't forget to keep your heart, your mind, and most of all, this channel wide open. Have a great day.
Every year, mothers lose their babies to gun crimes. You'll always be your mother's baby. So before you commit a gun crime, think about who you'll leave behind. Gun crimes hit home.